appreciate the Salvation Army being here. Thank you, Holly, for you, CDS being here, and the jail and the sheriff department's here along with HPD. Myron and Walker, both thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. Thank y'all both very much for being here. The biggest thing that I have today is homeless issue. I cannot have a conversation without having homeless issue in the conversation. I feel like it is, and it's something we campaigned on, it's something that we worked on, and it's something that we have to try to see what we can do about. Lord knows if we come up with a fix for it, we'll be the greatest city in the nation. But one of these, all we can do is work at it. And hopefully with Salvation Army, our police department, our sheriff's department, our jail, and as far as fiscal court and city council, we all work together. I believe we can start trying to put a dent into this. I know, I'm not going to take away from Chief Newby's stuff going that he's got going, but he's got a lot of things going on, talking to the homeless, getting their names and stuff and going through it. But we're here today to help work towards a solution, not to play the blame game or anything else, but what's there going to be a solution that we can work towards. Okay? And that being said, I'll call on Chief Newby to come to the front and have us a conversation.
So the big question that we get asked is, what is the problem for law enforcement? So with us, homelessness is not just a law enforcement issue. The Supreme Court ruled that, it's their freedom of speech to sit outside with signs and panhandle. So there's nothing that we can do about that. So what it comes down to, it's not a crime to be homeless. So it really takes that's what we deal with is law enforcement stuff, and it's not really a law enforcement issue. But what we can do is if we have ordinances such as, I've researched Owensboro. They've come a long way. I don't know if you've been downtown Owensboro lately, but it's beautiful. They've really turned it around. But they found loopholes in some of the laws, so like the ordinances. So they don't necessarily call it panhandling, but they've deemed that there are too many signs in the city of Owensboro that's taking away. It's causing driving hazards for motorists. There's too many signs for them to read, and it's just creating a distraction. So they created an ordinance to where you cannot have a billboard unless it's advertising for your business. And a billboard under that definition constitutes a person sitting there with a sign that's drawing attention to themselves, and that's a violation of their city ordinance. That was adopted earlier this year by Owensboro, and obviously it's enforceable because they're enforcing it. So they're not doing away with panhandling. They're just telling you can't hold your own billboard out on the side of the road and cause distraction to motorists. So there's ways around it. And you still respect their rights, but at the same time, you're also respecting the rights of the other citizens that shouldn't have to drive down the road and see the things that they're seeing. Campsites in cities, we got all these campsites that they're just throwing a tent up wherever and they're staying. You can make it a city ordinance to where, you just can't go out there and camp. But the biggest thing that state representatives and legislators can do for us is a lot of times that if we arrest somebody for criminal trespassing, it's just a violation, and it's nothing that they can be held in jail for. So as soon as we cite somebody for a violation such as criminal trespassing third degree, say if they go to the Alhambra and they're not supposed to be there, they've been trespassed because they're there pulling their pants down in front of kids, or they're walking in there with 2x4s, which they have. They're scaring everybody. They're trespassed. We arrest them for criminal trespassing, and they're immediately released. And that's because it's a violation, and the judges cannot hold them in jail for a violation. So if some of these laws can be switched from a violation to a misdemeanor, that would give us a little more teeth in what we can do to combat the homeless and those that don't want to respect the rules that the city are setting for them. We're not telling them it's against the law to be homeless, but if you're going to choose to be homeless, and 90% of them have chosen this lifestyle, is what we've learned. They don't want help. They ask us to go away. They're choosing this lifestyle. But what we're trying to tell them is if you choose this lifestyle, you're at least going to respect the rules that the city has in place for this lifestyle that you've chosen. So do y'all have any questions about what? Yes, sir.
Jason, appreciate, I know you mentioned the sign issue in Owensboro. This came up a couple of years ago. I think the Lion Den sued the state, and that's why we have a gazillion billboards on every interstate and parkway through Kentucky now. I think it also, with that being overthrown, I know these electronic signs that advertise gazillion things, at car washes and stuff like that, they're able to now advertise for other businesses. So I wonder how Owensboro did it to only, and if we did that, would that penalize anyone who has these electric billboards out? So.
Well, the good thing about the city ordinance is the council can approve, they can go over it with the city attorney, and they can come up with a language that still protects the rights, but it also accommodates the needs of the city. So each city is different. I mean, our issues are different than Paducah or Pikeville or wherever. So the good thing about it is the city council can make an ordinance that is specific to Hopkinsville. And that's what they've done, is they've researched it and they've made it specific to the city of Owensboro. So if you wanted to put in there a list of exceptions, such as electronic billboards that are rented out to people for advertisement purposes, you just simply put that language in there.
Okay, so it's not the whole blanket thing, it's a matter of just fine tuning the law.
Correct.
And I think at the state, Myron and I as lawmakers, we kind of set laws as a general rule, but sometimes regs are where it's all written and stuff. So that sounds very similar. It's all in the details, and sometimes that can be misconstrued on what we pass.
Right, and the good thing about the laws is a law that's in place, you can't make it less restrictive, but as a city, you can make it more restrictive. So if the law just gives you a broad sense of panhandling as a Fifth Amendment or a freedom of speech, well, that's fine. But you just make the city restrictions a little more focused on what they're doing. You're still respecting their rights, but you're also still protecting your city by making the rules and the ordinances more restrictive.
Jason, going off of what Walker asked, we have the ordinance identifying the thoroughfares. Would that be more of the areas we would be defining that? Because I don't want to get into neighborhoods affecting yard sales, or maybe some of us that have stood on a corner with a sign come election time waving at cars as they drive by. We don't want to get picked up on that either. But would that be something for city council, in your opinion, to utilize under our thoroughfare ordinance that's already in place, and just try to look at changing that?
It could be that thoroughfare ordinance, it's very confusing when you read it. It really needs to be clarified. It's certainly something we can build on, but it's very confusing when you read it. I had to read it about 3 or 4 times, and then once I understood what they were saying, we even had one of the guys that beg all the time. He was actually cited a couple of times on that ordinance, and he educated himself on the ordinance, and he found he would wait for the light to change 2 or 3 times and then go across the corner and then come back around, and then he was within compliance with the ordinance. So even they're finding loopholes. But yes, it is something that the city could build on.
All right. Chief, it's just a question I have. I know you had your crew and I had the Public Works over on 21st in Edmonds yesterday, and they reported back to me they finally got it cleaned up and had a bunch of needles and things like that. When on these homeless camps, is that what you're finding a lot of? Is drug paraphernalia and so on in these homeless camps?
It is. They're setting up any and everywhere, and then, so that one, when we first found out about it, we went out there to make contact with anybody. There was nobody there. We kept an eye on it throughout the weekend. We kept going. The property was still there, but we never could come in contact. But yes, sir, we're finding empty baggies, used syringes, I mean, you name it, we're finding it.
Right. Well, I found it up on 24th Street at my property. They had one move in there with left syringes and everything.
Mhm.
We cleaned up. But, you know, there again, homeless issue is really it's everybody's problem, and it is our problem to figure out how to figure it out. And a lot of it is drug issue. You know, they choose to live this way, and that's something we have to figure out how we're going to address this drug issue, because everyone that we've cleaned up here lately between Public Works and the city police department, every one of them's had needles and everything laying still on the ground. And there again, just after y'all went out the other day, your officers, we had to send everybody home because they were so dirty and everything to be cleaned up. And it takes 2 or 3 hours to clean up a homeless camp. And that's another problem we're having. You know, it's a lot of man hours. Time you send 4 or 5 guys from Public Works, or the police department sends 4 or 5 guys from their department, plus you got to come in and worry about one of them getting stuck by a needle or something like that. And then we have doctor issues on top of that. Where we have to, you know, and that's another thing, how can we start, you know, we know we have a drug problem. Everybody knows there's drugs out everywhere, but we're going to start figuring out how we can crack down on that issue.
Well, the problem with it, Mayor, is if they don't want help, there's nothing we can do for them.
Correct.
They're not in jail long enough for these ordinance violations or any violation. They're not in jail for any amount of time long enough to get help. So, and if they choose to live like this, there's nothing we can do to make them go get help. It may sound cruel, but about the only thing you can do is make their life so uncomfortable here in Hopkinsville with the city ordinances, and we let them know that we're not going to put up with it, that they choose to go to another town that doesn't have such strict ordinances, and they can continue living the way that they live. But we just have to stop being so accommodating for them here in Hopkinsville. We just really need to update our ordinances and start writing them for it and hold them accountable.
Okay. I'd like to ask a clarification question, please, sir. Is the panhandlers and the homeless the same population, or are they different populations, different groups of people?
Both. Some of them are, in fact, homeless, and some of them are not. Some of them are just choosing. We actually had a gentleman tell us he makes about $200 a day panhandling. He's been offered jobs. He's got a place to live, but he makes more money sitting on the corner, getting money at the intersection than he would going out and getting a job. So, but some of them that do panhandle are homeless. So to answer your question, it's both.
Thank you.
Dave?
Chief, I had a conversation this morning with a business owner out on the boulevard that had some folks, actually very respectful, were in front of his business. He had some chairs out there, came in his business. I asked if it was okay just to sit out front and rest for a little while. Their issue was they had, everybody's got a story, obviously, had borrowed a car wound up being a stolen car. They were not arrested, however, they no longer had transportation. And to the short of it is, they were trying to get to Nashville. And I said, I wish you would have called me. You know, instead of saying, yeah, just rest here for a while. I said, but, and I'm going to ask this to you, and I'm also going to, we've got our friends from Salvation Army here, and I think that they have a lot of exposure here too. How many times are we meeting with folks and they're trying to get somewhere? And if that is the case, what is available for us to, from a city, if we need to get with some private partnership, whatever, to be able to provide some sort of transportation, if it is just somebody looking to get to Nashville, to Indianapolis, I mean, to Los Angeles, if that's what they want. There's a Greyhound station in Clarksville, and I'm not saying put people on buses, only put on buses, but if it is someone that is trying to get somewhere, they're in transit, maybe they've had this issue, do we have anything, are we prepared for that?
I mean, we can. Now, on the law enforcement side, obviously, we're restricted. I mean, you know, our cars are not made for, you know, to be a taxi cab. We're a prisoner transport system is basically what it is. And not to mention, for law enforcement, you know, going across the state line's a big no-no. So we're definitely limited there on the law enforcement side. That would be more of a funding issue for the city.
Could we partner, though, if, let's say, one of your officers, a PSO, whatever, comes in contact, we're not outfitted for it, but we have the contact made. I don't know if Salvation Army, but it seems like to me if we are having these instances, and it sounds like to me we're having a few, not many, but a few, and in a meeting I had with Salvation Army last week, they indicated that transportation issues is one of their major concerns as well. And if we get people to where they're trying to go, we're only helping ourselves at that point. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we can work on. I mean, law enforcement, we already do that, you know, just like with the fire department, if somebody's house is destroyed by fire and they're displaced, they reach out to the Red Cross, so they use that. If we have a domestic violence incident where either the male or the female can't stay in the home anymore because it's a danger, it's our responsibility to help them find a safe place to go, whether it's in town or out of state. So, I mean, we can definitely build on it. It's just a matter of finding those other entities from across the state line that are going to be willing to work on it with us.
Lindsay, where are y'all at on that?
When Hopkinsville had a Greyhound station, we have an invoicing system that we set up with them, and we regularly help people. Now, for us, we do make sure that there is somewhere for them to have a roof over their head. We never send someone just to be on the street in another town. When the Greyhound station here closed, the Clarksville one wouldn't take the voucher system, and we also we don't have the staff to take somebody to Clarksville. So we have a couple times a month, we'll have someone come through, either in the shelter or not, that needs to get on to their, back home or wherever they're trying to be, and we don't have a way to make it happen yet.
So when that happens, what do you typically tell that person?
We don't have a way to make it happen. Aaron McNeil occasionally will help with some bus, but they have to come up with their own way to get to Clarksville. So we have partnered with Aaron McNeil a time or two to make those connections. So if the person has any kind of local ties and they're able to find somebody and that person has a driver's license, because Aaron McNeil does do their homework, making sure they're staying in legally in a car in Clarksville. We have been able to work that out a couple of times.
Byron?
Mayor, thank you, and I want to thank you for putting this meeting together. No one here wants this to sound like it's cruel or
Right.
what we're doing with discussing this issue, but the number of times that I've had business owners downtown, female business owners, that are terribly concerned and scared because they never know who's going to walk inside the door of their buildings. And we want to be cautious and very protective of all of our citizens that live here in this area. Chief, you're needing us to beef up the charge, the penalty, so that if someone is doing this, you're needing the legislature actually increase the violation, am I correct?
Yes, sir. Even if it was just, so criminal trespassing third is the big one, that if somebody's trespassed, we tell them, you're not allowed here anymore, don't come back. Even if just that one law alone was changed from a violation to a misdemeanor, would be a huge help. I mean, a huge help, even just that one.
Please reach out to me, Mayor. Send me a text Thursday. I'll be in Frankfurt. Let me get the legislation drafted
Okay.
and have it ready to go. You said you are taking names.
Yes, sir.
As your, and I was going to ask that of the Salvation Army, because I'd suggested a couple of years ago doing a database of individuals coming through, because there may be family members searching for some of the people that are that are.
Database exists, homeless management information system is ran by Kentucky Housing Corporation, and we have been putting into it for years.
We need to make sure that we get that information out, because, so that people are aware.
Well, it's not accessible to the public, it's only accessible to agencies that input the data for confidentiality. But that's where I ran this report today with statistics, but there is, it's homeless management.
Well, that is one of the things I think we need to look at changing, Walker, to make that accessible, because if you are a family member and you don't live here in the state of Kentucky, people are traveling across the entire country. And like I said, if you have a family member that you have no earthly idea where they are, that may be something, I'm a firm believer of being able to have someone be accessed so that they can locate that loved one.
We do get missing persons reports through the Salvation Army that we didn't have. So we do kind of check our records against this.
Sure.
before we see what comes in.
But I know so many people are going online that if you lived in Texas or California or Wyoming and you were looking for a family member, if there was a database there where people could actually go online to look to see, is this name popped up somewhere?
Right.
That would be something, and I'd say that if you'd ask anyone, that's something that's really vital, because I know within the homeless shelters there are those who collect those names and are watching that and may contact a family member, but we want to make sure that's very accessible. And also, I know there's a network that these people follow. I've seen them come across from the rail yard there at Pembroke, walk across to my business on Pembroke Road asking for money, and I've asked them, how did you get here? Well, we got off the train when it stopped over at the rail yard. And like I said, I'm a firm believer that there's a network where the homeless kind of follow, depending on if they know that there's a place where we're going to be able to stay for a week or two and be fed, they will follow that route. So I think we need to make sure that we make it less convenient.
Well, I understand that, Myron, because I've seen it, like you said, there at the rail yard when we worked up there at the factory, up there pushing snow at nighttime. You see them jump off the train and come up. Which way's Hoptown?
Mhm.
Where you going to Hoptown? I got food, I got shelter. It's where we're headed for 3 or 4 days.
Sure.
And, and they do that, because they do have a network. But there again, we have to figure out how we're going to, like you said, help them, deter them, something. That's something that the gentleman from Salvation Army spoke last Tuesday about, being a partnership with things. And I'm willing to sit down and talk to him and see what we got to talk. And Steve's talked with him last week, because I didn't get to be there for Tuesday's meeting, but we're going to have to sit down and have another conversation with them. But, I've talked to a few of them down at the Coffee Connection. I need a driver's license. I said, well, there's the driver's license place right there across the street. Well, I don't have a permanent address. We have to look at that.
Yeah, that was fixed this past year.
Yeah, I know, but they still using that as their crutch. We can't get a driver's license, we can't get a job, because we don't have a permanent address. So, and I told them, I said, that's been fixed. State of Kentucky's done that. You can go over and ask for a driver's license. But there again, just like some of them, hey, y'all all seen me stand on the corner every day for election. Them guys ask me, I look at them, hey, you got to get off the corner. You can't get off the corner. You're cutting in my money today. One guy's making $200 a morning, and I'm cutting into it, because I'm standing there asking for a vote. But when you do that, we have the biggest heart in the community I've ever seen. Anything that we do or somebody asks for, Rotary, Kiwanis, or even the homeless people, our community opens their heart up and their wallets. So we have to figure out. And then the next question, I guess, Mayor, you got to clean up downtown. Well, quit handing out money. Quit handing out. Let's make them go to the Salvation Army and talk to them, or make them go to the police station and talk to them. And even there at the Coffee Connection, Miss Henderson's giving out coats, coffee, donuts, whatever she likes to do over there. I'm not against that, but there again, we have a Fred Atkins Park right there that we cannot even open up because they won't keep it clean. And we let these folks do it, and we have syringes, whiskey bottles, everything thrown out there, and it's really a hard thing for people to understand. Or we'll stand right outside this building here and they stop and drop their pants and urinate right here on the front porch out here. And we cannot hold them to a higher standard if we don't have y'all's help, because Adam can't keep them over at the jail because the judge doesn't let them out. And then you're over, well, Adam, you're not doing your job. Adam, you're doing your job. You locked them up, but you can't keep them when the judge says they got to go. So, and I understand that. But Chief Newby and Sheriff DeArmond, they've got their hands full because, Lord, I call the chief about 5 or 6 times a week. Hey, I got something I need you to go look at. And it's 9 times out of 10. It's a homeless shelter that's popped up, or somebody's called me about because they're running in and out of the neighborhoods. And we have one here in the summer, they was walking down Marietta Drive, dropped up and said, this is where they're going to sit, underneath the man's tree. And we asked them to move on. No, I ain't got to move. So we had to get the police department involved with that. They just they know the law, they learned the law, and they know how far they can push the law. So that's one thing we got to look at. How are we going to help fix this?
One last question, Chief, and Mayor, are we still experiencing the same issue there with Western State as individuals are released? Are they sending them back home, or are they letting them choose where they want to stay?
So Western State has new administration there, and I've been in contact with Penny Roll and through them, and they're working on making sure that when people come in, that they know that if they want a ride back to where they're from, they are being offered that. But again, if they choose not to and they choose to stay, then there you go.
No, they're not mandatory that they have to go back to wherever they come from. There's, all right, you're staying in Hopkinsville. And there again, then they'll call the Salvation Army or whatever. But there again, when they get out of Western State, if we don't have a place to go, Salvation Army's not set up for nurses to make sure they're getting the medication they got, things like that. If they would, we'd have a great big building over here set up. But we don't have the nursing staff and stuff like that. So once we look at that, Western State's got to help us some too. And Councilman Keel, you had a question?
Well, and that's what I was going to throw out, Myron and Chris and Lindsay. I'm not, I'm going to say, we had a very good meeting last Tuesday for the most part. And I think this is the for the most part area, is when we were meeting, talking about your programs and everything, your Life Nav programs, all of those. I support those hand-up programs and what you're doing. My sticking point with what we're doing at our local Salvation Army is we are set up as an emergency shelter. So what time of the afternoon y'all open up? 4:30? And then at 7:30, we're telling everybody, okay, have a great day, see you back at 4:30. So if we have somebody that's being released, that's been in a treatment facility, say a 28-day drug rehab, they've got 28 days that they've been on a routine. Maybe they're from Hopkinsville, maybe they're not. More than likely, they're not. If they've been at Western State for any kind of psychological, that's the reason you're at Western State. It's not a medical hospital, it's a psychological hospital. So when the Salvation Army that is our shelter is set up as an emergency shelter, it is my personal belief, I'm not going to put that on everybody else in the room though, that telling somebody that's been in a program and been in a routine for months, weeks, whatever it is, at 7:30 in the morning, we're gonna turn you out in a strange city. We hope to see you back again at 4:30. The guy in the back with Tyler DeArmond, our sheriff, our chief newbie, these guys right here are the ones left to deal with when they're just wandering around, walking into places they don't know. And there is a deal of fear from business owners and those folks that have invested their life savings into their business. And telling somebody no is the hardest thing in the world to do. But when you're not outfitted for something, you're just not outfitted for something. An emergency shelter, y'all asked me Tuesday, and I'm going to give everybody in the room my answer. When y'all said, what is an emergency shelter for me? The folks that their house burned down last night. The guy that just got laid off from his job and he's doesn't have a place to stay, or his family doesn't have a place to stay. But the fact of the matter is, Western State's going to call the Hopkinsville Salvation Army because, as y'all even told me, the nearest 24-hour facility is Paducah. And everybody in this room is in politics to some nature, and we all know that it all rolls down to money and time. So what is going to be best for their budget and their folks? Is it going to be to drive an hour to Paducah and an hour back, pay the fuel, pay the mileage, pay the labor, or is it going to be to go 5 minutes down the road? And then also look at, from a humanitarian standpoint, are we really helping this guy out that's been in a treatment for 28 days, 2 months, 6 months, and turn him out in a strange city at 7:30 in the morning? We might want to pat ourselves on the back. They didn't sleep on the street last night, but at the same time, if the rules as we're hearing them are, they cannot release unless we verify the bed. When we say no, we don't have a bed available, they're not making them sleep in the park. They got to stay with it until they find the bed. Anybody that's been at Western State knows capacity is not a problem. They've got room. And if we need to toughen up on those regs, Myron and Walker, from the release standpoint, but an emergency shelter that's turning somebody out at 7:30 in the morning, I will never get behind that coming out of these type programs. I think it's detrimental to the person you're bringing in as much as it is to the city.
Ma'am?
Did you have some?
I just ran this report this morning for October 22 to September 23. Of the people coming out, so 296 people housed in the Salvation Army during that time period. 4% of them were from psychiatric hospitals or other facilities. That's 12 people. That's not just Western State. That's Lourdes. That's the psych unit at Jimmy Stewart. That's any psych unit anywhere. Substance abuse or treatment facility, 5%, 15 people. Hospital or other non-psychiatric was 22 people, which is 6%. And people coming from jail, prison, juvenile detention is 27 people and 9%. So we're talking as if this is the bulk of our homeless population, and it just isn't.
That's over 30 people right there.
Out of 296.
That's still 30 people.
But what everybody needs to.
Where's the percent? What's locating, what's the highest percent in that metric?
Jail.
Of all of them, though? Is that the highest percent, or what is the highest percent?
The highest percent is staying with friends and family and getting put out, I believe. 14% living in a family member's house, room, or apartment.
Jail was how much?
9%.
What we've realized doing the Brothers Keeper program at the PD is the fact that the jail's been here for years and years. The Salvation Army's been here for years and years. Western State's been here for years and years. The homeless issue has not been here that long. The fact is, people are choosing to live this type of lifestyle. We had one female here that's choosing to be homeless. She has family here in Hopkinsville. Her mother has been begging her, come back home, but she won't do it because she is choosing this lifestyle. Homelessness is becoming a lifestyle that people are choosing. And so that's why I said earlier, the only thing not the only thing, but the best thing we can do is make Hopkinsville an uncomfortable city to have that type of lifestyle. For example, if somebody was to come to your house and camp out in your front yard, and you call us, and we tell them you can't be here, and we leave, they can come back. We take them to the jail, they immediately get released, and they come right back to your house. They can do that cycle over 100 times, and it doesn't change the fact that it's a violation. They know it's a violation, and there's nothing we can do to them.
So Jason, if we bump that to a misdemeanor, so, and the courts say, okay, listen, you've spent the night on Myron's yard 5 nights in a row here. It's now a misdemeanor and it goes through court. How long can, what's that penalty usually carry? And how long can Adam hold them? And
So a misdemeanor, you can stay in jail up to 12 months.
12 months. and
Correct,
So,
yeah.
so that could, in essence, by being in jail, could get them off the drug issue, but they still have nowhere to go. I mean,
But
so-
if their issue to being homeless is, I don't have a job, I don't have any responsibilities, I can get the drugs, I can get whatever I want, the judge can say, okay, you're either gonna pay a $500 fine, or you're gonna stay in here until you do pay it. Well, then they're in there long enough that you get to the underlying cause of why they're homeless. When it's just a violation, we don't even have that option. It's just a complete cycle of a revolving door at the jail. And it's not against the judges, it's just the state law says judge can't hold them in there for a violation.
But a misdemeanor, even if they got out and then got picked up on the same thing, the misdemeanors can kind of stack on top of each other.
Well, typically
Can't
what'll
they-
happen is if they have a misdemeanor, they don't pay the fine, then they don't show up for court, well, then they can be held in for failure to pay, contempt of court, failure to appear, and then they can be held in there even longer. So yes, and then it starts to compound.
Gotcha. Has anyone spoken with Senator Westerfield on that?
Yes,
Because obviously, this law would have to go through judiciary, and he
Correct.
chairs, so.
Yeah,
it's-
we met at Judge Gillum's office, as a matter of fact.
Okay, okay.
Curiously, how much does it cost to house a prisoner for 24 hours? What's the 24-hour cost to house them? $50 a day. Okay, so they're in there for 4 days is 100. So let's say they're in there 3 months. It's going to cost you several $1,000s to house somebody for a misdemeanor of camping on somebody's yard.
Yep.
And then you multiply that out by the number of people charged with this misdemeanor. So now the city's in a couple $100,000.
But how many millions of dollars has this city lost because businesses are saying, until you fix your homeless problem, we're not setting up shop?
I'm not worried about what you lost, I'm worried about what you spent. Can you afford a couple $100,000 a year to house homeless people?
I think so, yes. Because,
Wouldn't that money be better invested in a shelter or another nonprofit that is actually set up to do that and actually set up to root out the cause of the problem, like our Life Map program?
is it rooting out the cause?
That's our job, that's what we're going to.
But is that what,
It's a case management.
but is it working?
Yeah, it's working across the state.
It's not working here.
Well, because it's not implemented fully here.
Well, who needs to
I'm not
implement?
arguing
No,
that.
no, I'm saying, whose job is that to implement it?
It's our job, but when we don't have the funding to, we can't.
Can I ask, just, that raises a really good question. It's actually something I had written down, because if we've talked about the Salvation Army's been here for years, yeah, this has been here for years, a lot of agencies, whatever, but homelessness, or at least to the extent it is right now, has not. So what have you all seen and/or change and/or are changing maybe to combat? Because I know you all have had to see an increase in numbers, so what programming are you all implementing or changes are you all making that you all didn't have 4 years ago, or certainly not 1960?
I can assure you that we have gone away from the model of a handout. Like, it used to be you came to us and we paid your utility bill, your water bill, your rent bill, whatever it took for you to get by that. Obviously, long-term, you're showing up every few months because you need help, and we're not really solving the problem. So we created 2 programs nationally, they're nationally known. Our Pathway how can we help you with that?
Our program, we've actually created some bonds between our PSOs, the officers, and some of the homeless. Now, my question, just out of ignorance, the program that you're saying you've not been able to implement because of cost, so what kind of costs are you talking, or that you all would need to implement the program that you're referring to?
So on average, the Pathway of Hope program, it takes about $3,000 to $5,000 per family to get them from crisis to self-sufficiency. Okay, so you multiply that by the number of families we have. Life NAV is usually $1,500 to $3,000, $3,500 for an individual. Okay, whether that's paying off past debt, getting them some sort of education, getting them a driver's license, getting a birth certificate, ordering a birth certificate. It's very hard for a lot of people in the homeless population. So it's just those little costs that add up. You know, whether they need a pair of work boots to go to work, you know, they can't afford the steel toe boots that are required in some of these factories. You know, we try to help with those types of things. So, you know, unfortunately, we are running the shelter here. You know, I believe we're the only real shelter in town, right? That is a big cost center for us. We do a feeding program. Those types of things are taking that funding right now that we can't afford to spend on life. Now, we are working towards a lot of grants, and, you know, we shall speak to that, for rapid rehousing and that sort of thing, where we can get people off the street. But put them in an apartment for a month isn't going to solve it in 30 days, right? That's long-term, intensive case management.
I'd like for you guys maybe sometimes come to the PD and look at the Brothers Keeper program, because we've done exactly what you said. We've asked them, who's your next of kin, where do they live, what's their contact information? And they actually know all of that. And we've asked them, how did you get here? You know, how did you get in this position? And so we've established all that you're referring to. I'd like for you guys to look and see what we've got.
Myron?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I did want to ask, how many shelters similar to what the Salvation Army has here in Hopkinsville is in West Kentucky?
We have one here, we have one in Madisonville, which is a little bit smaller. The nearest one past here would be Clarksville, Tennessee. The mayor of Paducah is begging us to build a shelter, which we are not sure is the right answer. We're actually in the middle of a study to figure out what that community needs from us.
But in West Kentucky, there's just the two, Hopkinsville and Madisonville, correct?
It's really just the two.
What about Bowling Green?
Bowling Green would be the next closest that I would.
Now, on your old chapel up there, didn't y'all trying to do a mental health or something with it in the old chapel?
It's our life navigational.
Okay.
hub. So we're in the process of wiring that building for internet.
Right.
And then as soon as that gets done, we'll move in.
Okay, all right.
And that's the program that's, we're
Right.
trying to get there. We just, you know.
More case management staff to make that really run effectively. But as far as, we had money that came in through CARES Act, ARPA, to house more people than we've ever housed. And we are getting close to housing 200 different households, you know, a good portion of them from the street, but only 5 that I'm aware of have come back into homelessness. So on some level, something is working, and we have street outreach that we were just awarded through Snowflow, might be ARPA, I lost track. So we really do want to come alongside when you find someone out and begin building that relationship, because we're not seeing all the places that you see. So we want to come alongside with you and do that, to get them into the state phase, offer them, or even if it's just filling out for, you know, whatever housing application they need, we can do all of that.
Okay. Steve, you had a question? No? All right. But, you know, I know from working up there, y'all being very busy on cleaning stuff out up there and trying to get this program off the ground. That's the reason I was asking about that.
Mayor, I'm interested more into your demographic of, you said 296 in the last month. I assume that's unduplicated?
The last year, it is unduplicated. So this is October 2022 to September 30th, 2023.
So you served 200, or you've housed 296 different individuals?
In the shelter, correct. It does not include the street outreach.
And I'm sorry for this, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this. How many of those 296 really want help? And I'm assuming if they come to your shelter, they're wanting some sort of help. Is it the same kind of help that Or if Chief Newby approaches them, they don't want help? Are they wanting the same person?
There's a huge variance in what people say to me when they sit down at my desk. Because I ask,
There we go.
what's your plan for the future? I ask how you get here, because we're 11 miles from the interstate. You know, I ask all these things as well. So I get, housing is typically the first thing that is said to me. We have people that come and stay a day or two because they come out of the jail, mama can't get them from whatever town she's in for a few days, so they don't need anything else from us beyond that. We have people that are disabled, and, you know, you ask them to make the phone call to start their food stamp benefits, and you're literally on hold an hour or two, and they cannot, they don't have the capacity to do that. So we have such a wide range of people. Recently, we had a lady who was a nurse by trade, who retired, had an aneurysm, and ended up homeless. You know, not functioning at the level she did for her entire life. We have families. I mean, just every story is so different that it's very difficult for me to tell you in a nutshell. Now, obviously, mental health and addiction are huge, huge pieces of what we see. And, you know, but it's just, it varies a lot. The most answer I get is that they want to be housed.
And I'm sorry, I want to try to quantify the problem because I know it's not a quantitative
Sure.
solution to it. But to me, it almost seems like we're talking about two different types of people. From the ones that are downtown that are causing a disruption to the ones that probably aren't sober that can enter your shelter, correct? They got to be sober to enter, or I guess presumed sober. So to me, it seems like you're talking about two different types of people in two different populations. And that's what my question was. Out of that 296, how many of that 296 maybe are the ones that are living on the streets that don't want the help, that are causing a nuisance, that aren't willing to accept your help, that whether it be a lifestyle, whether it be an addiction, or whether it be whatever?
I think there are some that cross both. They may come into the shelter, and we have some people for mental health reasons. They cannot handle the barrack-style setup of the men's dorm, and having that many people that close to them, they cannot handle it due to their mental illness. So those are some of the people that we're definitely interacting with.
That's fair.
So we probably both know the same people. There are definitely some that are well hidden that I've not come across. We've discovered that in the point in time count that we do each January. The HUD mandates, we go and count homeless people on a certain night in January every year. And we came across people on the boulevard that we had never interacted with before. So there's definitely some that don't overlap, but I believe that the people who are most problematic downtown, I know most of their names.
And the other thing you got to remember too, Judge, is a lot of these people know how to play the system. If they want something from the Salvation Army, whether it's a meal, a night stay, they know exactly what questions they're going to ask, and they know exactly how to respond to get what they want from them. But then when we talk to them and say, hey, what do you need? I don't need nothing. I'm good. Thanks. So you got the same person giving two different stories about what they want just to accommodate what they're trying to accomplish. So that's the other problem you run into, is you don't really know whether they're being honest with you or not.
Chief, when y'all go, doesn't have to be downtown, but if you run into one, I'm assuming they're checked for warrants or something like that. If they have an active warrant, they are arrested. At what rate are they, I guess, released and then in turn perhaps rearrested for something later, or, for lack of a better term, extradited somewhere else because that warrant was from somewhere else?
So if they have a warrant, whether we arrest them or not, if they're from Kentucky, or the warrant is from Kentucky, they're arrested. But if they're from Tennessee, a lot of times what we run into, if they're from Tennessee or surrounding state, they'll say they're not going to extradite them. We pick people up that have warrants out of Clarksville, and Clarksville says they will not extradite them from anywhere other than Tennessee, simply because they're sending the message that we're not going to bring you back here, but don't come back. If you do, we're going to put you in jail. So we get people that have warrants, but the state's like, no, we're not going to come and get them.
And we don't have any recourse, and I'm assuming if you're talking about states, this would be perhaps a state question,
It's up
to have them sit down there.
It's entirely up to the state that issues the warrant.
Wow.
And there's a lot of them that say, just don't come back. We won't come get you as long as you don't come back here.
Wow.
And they know
Very
that.
eye-opening.
Yeah. And they'll tell you, I've got a warrant out of Arkansas, but that it's non-extraditable.
And do you think that is a big percentage? And I totally agree with what Judge is saying. I think we're almost talking about two different people, two groups of people here. Now, I definitely think there's some overlap, but how many do you think, or how many? I mean, y'all's experience, y'all talk with them, and I'm sure, assuming arrest a lot because of active warrants. How many of our population do you think have those warrants that are non-extraditable, or they have said just don't come back?
It's hard to put a number on that, and the reason is, we have a few that are Hopkinsville citizens now. They've chosen this as their place. But outside of those handful of people, it's such a revolving, the homeless is a revolving community that they may come 2 or 3 days and then they're gone for 5, 6 months, and then they come back and they have, it's like they said earlier, they have this entire network that they'll go from city to city to city. So it's really hard to get an accurate count of what your homeless population is because it changes literally every day.
Yeah. Interesting.
Steve?
And this kind of circles back, actually with Chris, going back to the, how much does it cost to house? And you heard me say a week or so ago, jail is not, that's not the answer. Arresting people is never the answer. Well, unless depending on what they did, I guess. But in these areas that you're talking about, where you're running the Life Nav program, you have your shelters, and what did you tell me the other day? Was it Ashland? What's the other cities, just so everybody knows?
I mean, so we are in Ashland, Frankfort, Richmond, Lowell, Bowling Green, Paducah, Henderson, Owensboro, here, Madisonville.
But which one of those are all run the Life Nav?
Pretty much, we are all set up to run it. We're running it very secretly.
Okay, so I guess my question, when we're talking about housing and getting people into programs, and you may or may not have a baseline, but do you have a baseline for, in these areas, when we started these programs, what was, give or take, the homeless population before these programs started? Have we seen an uptick in more people coming to that area but not being able to get into the program, thus increasing the issue? Has the issue gone down because of the program, or just stayed about the same?
I mean, I would not, I'd have to look at those stats. I'd have to do some research for you.
Is there any way we can get those stats?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know if that's possible. I mean, we can give you the number of people we're helping in each community, but the people that come to a community, I mean, that it won't be because we're doing this program.
But to go back to the point that I think Myron has made and several others, if you, the concern will be, if you build a 150-bed facility, you're going to have 300 people show up. And then we're not outfitted for 300 people.
Which is why we are not.
And that's what.
Why we are doing the study in Paducah, right?
Okay.
Because we just don't want to build a shelter and build.
Right.
Actually, building a shelter is not the answer either. Because that doesn't,
And
unless they're in our program, we're not solving.
And I'm not trying to throw anybody that does any other kind of outreach programs under the bus right here, for the most part. But with how well do y'all work with, we do have some other folks out there that are doing some things. A lot of handouts, we've talked about that. Are y'all communicating and trying to work together, and are we cutting each other off at the knees on some of the things going on, or are we finding that we can get into a partnership?
Historically, we have been cut off at the knees with getting in touch with my commission. However, they do not have an executive director at this time. They're in between directors. And I spoke with the head of their board, and he said as soon as they have an executive director, we'll set up a meeting. But one of my intentions is to stop duplicating efforts. My commission serves lunch every Monday through Thursday. There's no need
an increase.
More, however much it is.
But for trying to get folks to go on to your Life Nav and those things, if, say, we have an organization that just keeps giving clothes out of the back of a box trailer, just make that up out of thin air, is that hurting what y'all are trying to do with getting somebody back to getting in a program to get self-sufficient, or is it kind of a thumb in the eye to what y'all are trying to do, going, well, you may be trying to get them back to work and be self-sufficient, but we're just gonna keep giving them every facet of they need to get through life, and here you go.
The answer is easy. If we're not working together with other nonprofits, then yeah, we're not solving it. Because we may do one thing for them, the other nonprofit does something else. In a lot of the cities that we work the best in Ashland and Bowling Green are two prime examples is, the city has set up a homeless coalition, right? There's somebody from city council, there's the chief of police, there's all the big nonprofits in town represented. And they meet monthly to address, what is it you're doing? What is it you're doing? Like Lieutenant Lindsay is saying, I mean, in order for us to build the Life Net program, we're gonna have to cut somewhere, or we're gonna have to raise more money, right? So, if my commission is serving lunch 3 days a week, yeah, we're not gonna serve it, because we can utilize those funds elsewhere. But if we're not communicating with them, then they're gonna run out of money even faster than they are right now.
Well, and I say all that to get back to this, when it,
In the scenario you mentioned, that completely hypothetical
Yes.
scenario, it is a little counterproductive.
and that's where I'm trying to get to, I think. We can sit here and argue about what's the Salvation Army do, these kind of things, but ultimately, this has been y'all's job since, in Hopkinsville, since what year did you say, 1968?
1916.
1916, excuse me. I mean, Mr. Mundy he was still in diapers then. So, I mean, he doesn't even remember that. But what I'm saying is this, when this has been y'all's mission for that many years, but then we have folks that are making it their hobby, is that exasperating the problem?
Steve, let me call my name so I get to stand.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mundy, of everybody in this room, sir, you need to stand up and talk.
Several, I wasn't prepared to talk because I didn't know what y'all were talking about. But one thing you just said kind of caught my mind. You said, it's y'all's problem. Now, I think that's what the city of Hopkinsville County of Christian are saying. It's the Salvation Army's problem. Or it's the police problem. It's not. It's your problem.
It's our problem.
It's everybody in Christian County's problem. It's the church's problem. And unless people have a heart for these poor, and Chief, you said 90% don't want help. What I'd say to that, when I was in college, I went to Vanderbilt, and I drank a lot, way too much. I don't know why I didn't flunk out. My brother came down there, my older brother, and he said, Bill, you're really doing poorly. You're drinking too much. And I said, Herb, I don't need your help. I'm okay. Well, I wasn't. I was sick. And really, unless the Lord had gotten a hold of me, I'd still be sick, and you'd be taking care of me out on the street if I weren't dead. So the people that don't want help are sick, or they would want help. Anybody that's in that kind of condition doesn't want to be in that kind of condition. They're sick.
Oh, I agree.
And I know, I do go back pretty far, 40 years ago, Pennyroyal Mental Health had day centers. And in these day centers, where the Salvation Army turns it out and they go to Michael or they go to Coffee Connection, they went to a day center and they had trained psychologists there, they had nurses there, they gave shots, they gave treatments, they gave counseling, and all of that's gone. And maybe part of the problem that there's more homelessness is that whole area of health has disappeared, and it's all falling back on the Salvation Army. And then people really don't want to give the Salvation Army money. So it's the community's problem, and the community's not here. You guys have done a great job doing all you can. Salvation Army forever. There's just a lot of people that their heart is against the poor, against these panhandlers, against the ones that are on the street. And they're easy to be against. But these are God's people. And, you know, what would Jesus do?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Thank you very much. All that being said, we've been here a little over an hour, and I know some of you have other engagements you told me before we got started, but I would like for the Salvation Army not to leave. I need to speak to you before you leave. Do y'all have any more questions for the Salvation Army or Myron or Walker before we adjourn?
Mayor, I just once again want to thank you. I want to thank the members from the Salvation Army. Chief Newby, thank you for being here. This is important for us to have this.
This is going to be one of
Have
many
this
that we're going to
information
have.
brought to us, and I'm happy to help in any way. Like I said, the goal's not to be mean, not to say we're running people out of town. We want to help those who need help, who actually want help. But I also want to make sure, I don't like it when I have people pull me aside and say, I'm scared of where I'm working at.
Exactly. Well, you've had the same lady talking to me about that.
Yes, that's whenever you know that you're something's going on right there, when someone's had a business here in Hopkinsville for over 30 years and they're nervous because they've had people walk into the business, that usually there are, it's hard on their business, it's hard on their customers because they have seniors that come in there. So we want to make sure they are in a very safe environment and not have to be concerned about that. So, and I know if that one's experiencing it, our other businesses downtown are experiencing this as well.
And that's one reason that, before we adjourn, I'll tell you, the chief here's got the PSOs walking up and down the streets. Every time I look up, I tell them I need more, and then I get told I ain't got the money. But there again, we're trying to put officers on the streets, walking up and down downtown areas for the downtown businesses. And Chief is working with them, and so is the jail with Adam and them. They're trying to make sure they know where they come from, getting their information, so we know who they are. You know, Chief, I hate to say it, y'all starting to get one-on-one basis with some of them. You know, we are. But I do like to say thank you for each and every one of you being here today. I appreciate your time. I know you all have other things and businesses to run, but thank y'all for being here today. Thank you. Squire, thank you. Here's
How's everything in your all's world? I said, how's everything in your all's world? How's everything at the church? It's going great. Good.
I'd sit in my office and watch the file down, right here, okay? I'm not gonna take that. File right down the tree here. When they come in, when they leave the office. But, you know, where we're at right there, you know, it's like I was, I'm saying, can't. Just like I'm on Joey Allen now, we see that. Garbage can with your box hands out here. Oh, the work can't be up there for the bank, but he wants to be on the curb. You know, he's not helping y'all's cause, he's not helping our cause. Just like this report, y'all hear back from the Alhambra, we were in there. Not much of those other things. First name basis. And we know they have, and that's one problem we're worried about, y'all. We got one good kid. They bring locked up, but I only 8 days, 12 days, 10 days evaluation. You're on. Yes, some, on 72. All right, so we got them on bid for 72 dollars for less. Now we're looking out for this. And then go back to your state, we'll get other ones. You know, and I'm not trying to be rude, you know, I worry about people getting hurt, because if we give them a bid, then we turn around and do a great job. We have a fun line, just now. Yeah, that is getting good. Yes. They're the best of the family. But we have to find a way. I appreciate that. Done that, we can speak. Appreciate it. I got council business.
You have a couple $100,000 to spend extra, so we don't have to worry about it, that's the county's obligation. You go volunteer, give them
He was quiet.
You're losing man hours in homelessness that you need in other.
Oh, I'm losing.
We're losing trouble, we're losing it. How many times we see an ambulance or something right here, we're losing our EMS, police, public works. Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, I hired
We
another
lose-
janitor just to help pick up his bill.
We lose, I'd say we lose much time in public works, we're losing
Yes.
somewhere else.
Well, you know, I had,
Closing Fred Atkins Park, it had to be done.
everybody thought I was a bad guy for doing that, but I did. You know, I spent 4.5 hours over on 21st Street in Woodmill yesterday picking up the homeless.
When you say camp, is there structure, tent,
They got tents, they got bicycles, they got carts that hooked into bicycles.
Russ that just left, he owns Little City. He said it is at least a few times every few months, he'll get called from our solid waste. When they swing open the doors to the dumpster, there'll be somebody in there with, what they do, they're still in the, shopping carts. Shopping cart flipped upside down, fire under it. They're using it to cook on. Then when it cools off, they put their stuff back in it and off they go. And I'm gonna throw out, I think where, with the other, I'm gonna cut you off, man, you know what I do.
You don't have to.
The issues, it does revolve in public safety. And where I was trying to go, and I think y'all saw where I was trying to go with my line of question on, when you're doing what we're doing in Hopkinsville, it's a hop. They had no plan, they had no vision, they had
No
nothing.
case management.
They're just,
And that's what I was
it's a
trying to
free,
bring,
it's a free,
just what we try to do, doing your last.
the last note that I
People
took,
that know that you're working.
and the last note that I took is the homeless coalition.
Right, to where,
I would be glad to sit into the meeting and host the meeting here.
We'll host it right here. We will.
But at the end of the day, it needs to be y'all's meeting,
I know he is. He still wanted to buy him dinner, so. And I bought him dinner, I didn't give him money, I went and bought him dinner. But I said, if you got a drug problem, let's go over here, we will get somebody to give you help. But I said, the problem is, as soon as somebody gives you $20, you'll start screaming, and then you'll go over and get your buddy over here, and y'all go buy your little dime bag or whatever you got, and you're fixed for an hour. And, you know, that's the way it is. Now, question is, case management. How are we gonna get it going? How are we gonna push it? Because, and there again, we go down here 10:30 in the morning at Coffee Connection. You can't walk down the sidewalk for all the bicycles.
Where the bicycle?
Where's the bicycles coming from?
We don't-
Every homeless person's
My
got a
brother,
bicycle.
and me and JR talked about this,
Yeah,
he was
but
my brother.
yeah, we're on the same.
So, my brother lives in Wilmington, North Carolina. They've got a little bit, they're about the size of Clarksville. They have bigger homes as you and we do, they're bigger. Oh, the bicycles showed up in Wilmington 2 weeks before they started showing up in Hopkinsville. He told me the other day, he said, be looking for reflective tests. He said, this was, what, 2 weeks ago? And everything's tracking 2 weeks to a month behind. I've seen one of them on a bicycle at night wearing a reflective vest. There's some kind of national something going on the handouts. Because we're tracking between Wilmington and Hoptown.
Yes.
Because he was like, because it was just happened to be my mother's birthday. And we're driving to downtown, he's like, man, they got some nice bicycles. So he goes, they just got them in Wilmington too. And I said, what? He said, I got 2 weeks
The
to a
only thing I
month
do
ago.
know is that it's not us.
Well, I know.
Somebody's giving out bicycles.
Now, we have to be in
And
the shelter,
vests.
if we have them in the, if they get given to the thrift store.
But it's just
We have them now. It's been a while.
There's, so, I mean,
Well, sure,
I try not to wear tinfoil hat very much, but that one just kind of hit me right upside the head. I'm like, so
Are the bicycles a nuisance, can there be legislation?
Well, I
Well,
don't know.
they're making sure they're legal.
You gotta make sure they're legal, you gotta make sure they're not stolen, next thing
They're
is,
having,
they're blocking the sidewalks and everything else.
It is not that it's illegal or even a nuisance. It's another handout, where's it coming from?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, I mean, can
So like
it be
my
worth-
commission,
can
you know,
that
actually,
be something that's
he's thinking of, what, 300 tents? Is that what he told me? My commission, he's handing out tents. So we call them, if you're on the Greenway, my house is here, his shop building's here off Virginia, I'm gonna celebrate, he's on Virginia, the Greenway goes between them. We catch him down in the woods, there's a gully down there, so you're looking over the top of it. But then you look down in that gully, you see those tents pop.
Or just like at the old mall that pop up there, you go up on 21st Street, you know, I'm talking people, when you fill up a dump truck full of garbage off of this, 3 or 4 people, we got, you know, the property owners, they don't go where it's wood, you know, it's that I mean, I don't care where nobody goes back and forth, but all the flood and stuff like that. But, they're living. Property, you know, who's responsible for it? You know, who's responsible for property owner? You responsible for it? When I'm concerned. Who's doing what? Well, I'm mom. You know, so they tell me they gotta go, they're trespassing. You go put up a sign that says no trespassing. It's go, hey, you see the trespassing sign, not down, and go, there's no problem.
Back behind the mall.
Now, we've trumped around back there, we have found, there's one person living back there that we have found, but we've trumped around back there, we
Well,
can't find nobody.
if it's been recent, I tell you why, Cal and Gibbons, Gibbons own most of that. Cal has gone in,
Well, it's been over the
and
last
they have,
2-3 years.
they basically clear cut.
Oh, they're cut.
Because it was getting so bad
You can't see.
with the garbage was everywhere, they're trying to sell off some lots, it was hurting. So Cal
They're over
went in
here
and
on,
clear cut.
on 7th Street behind shopping carts there now, at lunch, before I come here, it's only down to one. Here, it's a burnout house.
But then our fear on the burnouts and.
Or they start a fire
This is
inside.
Mark selling house.
Well, and the issue you run into there is that's putting all the first responders in jeopardy. Because when they're in there, there's no electric hooked up, no nothing, they're starting small fires inside these houses. They're gonna die themselves, or, I don't see any of our firemen.
Well, it's like all right here,
It's happened several
The Opera House
times.
right here that we tore down before they started painting, was right there. You'd step in the Opera House, you walk 5 feet in, and walk straight to the basement, 15 feet. And it's full. How do I send a firefighter in there, or an EMT in there? If they set it on fire, how am I gonna call and tell you, sorry, your family's not coming home because we sent you in a dilapidated building that we knew was dilapidated?
After we had that one looked at, our fire chief told everybody, said, if that one catches on fire, it's controlled burns, we will not send anybody in it so bad. He said, I will lose firefighters if I set them in that building. Everybody thinks we're just being mean on the city, tearing all these old buildings down. We legitimately, if any of those buildings, because of the structure they were in, had caught on fire, we'd have probably lost half downtown, because we cannot send firefighters in buildings that bad. We're not being mean and heartless, we're not trying to lose the whole downtown.
But then we turn around and go to these houses.
Somebody did that.
Oh, well,
We're
that's
working
good.
on it, working on it.
Somebody does that.
That's a good problem. That's a good problem.
You know, I got 872 lots, empty lots. Now, I probably got over 1,000, 1,500 empty homes that are half boarded up, that people are living in, that don't have. And that's one reason we talk about CDS, while CDS is not pushing it. And it takes money to tear down a house. But tear down a house, it costs us anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000. Sure. Tear down a house. And all that subcontracted because public works don't have time to tear down houses, take care of streets and ditches.
And that's after we have to go through all the process, to pay the attorneys, and all the signs and everything.
About 15 months. Yep.
You make an offer on any of them right now. Mr. Money, if you'll make an offer on any of them right now, we are. I promise you, Mike Perry would have loved it if you started that off.
But, no, I want y'all to know, I'm not against y'all. We have to I just gotta figure out how to start this conversation, and let's move forward. I'm tired, like I told everybody before, I'm tired of the blame game. I don't wanna hear it's the jail, I don't wanna hear it's Western State. Because I tell you right now, we can figure out a solution, we'll figure out a solution for the whole country. But,
And I agree with Mr. Money, we're all in it together.
that's right, we're all in together.
Our business owners, you know, I
These
used to
poor
know.
folks, they don't have enough money.
No, they don't.
None of what you want to do.
No, they don't have the funds, they don't have the resources to
all
do
they
that.
can do.
You know, that's what I'm looking at right now. If we get your offices fixed, we need to get payroll sent. Your big problem is government agencies were cut off. We've been slowly cutting away government, like payroll center, social workers, case workers. Oh, no, we just cut that back.
COVID
But
money,
that's
COVID
part
money
of
is
your
on
own.
back.
Right.
Some of those people, they were touching,
You know,
they were
they-
young when they could get a job.
You know, that's no problem when they leave jail. We send them through the SAP programs and things like that, with the jail, the solar, get them off drugs. But who's really talking to them once we get them out of that program? Who do they see when we
He
get
was
them out?
talking-
have
he was
one
talking about
space,
water
one option to
usage.
come in and meet in our space as well. That was, since the internet comes, that'll be available for all center, or anybody, any other
He
agency.
was talking about jobs for life.
Right.
And that was something good to get, some of that's
Right.
as good as others. But that's not the end of the talk. Those
No.
people coming out of jail need to go through that program.
Right.
I was told it's supposed to
It's
start
a
back up after
faith-based
the first year.
program, but some of those people get employed.
But I feel we've got to keep conversation. If you're going to see another email out in about 2 or 3 weeks with another date, saying we're going to meet again, we're going to keep pushing forward. I'm going to have my permission. I asked Senator Westerfield to be here, but no, but he said he didn't get the email, so me and Dick are fixing to check on that. But sure, if not, I hand delivered it to him. I know who it is.
I got Penny Roll.
I know Peter Ross will be at the table.
Well, I got one ask y'all
What
there.
they're doing.
Could y'all make kind of a list, because I guarantee y'all know what we do, of the agencies or the different organizations that need to be in the room?
We want
That's
that.
the other
And if y'all could make the list.
We'll make a list and an agenda.
Email it over here
You're not a bad guy. I'm gonna win you over, don't worry.
I don't know about that, he's hard to do. Karen's gonna be on there, if she didn't do it last time, we got to sign up, ring the bell and all that. Oh, I like ringing the bell, we have a fun time doing that.
That's how I got my job. I was a bell ringer.
How many times have we been to a meeting? I said, I'm not a bad guy.
Maybe 10. Yeah. He said, I'm not me. He told me I wasn't, he went me, and I said, I never used the word me to describe it.